94% of workplace executives and 88% of employees say a strong and distinct workplace culture is essential to business success, according to Deloitte. Meanwhile, Forbes reports that a strong and vibrant workplace culture is 4 times more likely to spur economic activity and company growth. Kevin McAlister is a native of Australia, but currently living in London, England. He's the founder of Your Wellbeing. As an ex-accountant turned personal trainer, McAlister has brought both of these experiences together to form a global team, which is on a mission to transform the employee experience for lawyers and accountants through a preventative approach which focuses on employee mental health through physical well-being and community. He joined me this week to discuss how we can create a positive work culture at work to boost productivity and morale, while also making sure that we mentally stay in the game of life, in and outside of the office. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. McAlister says that establishing a vibrant and positive workplace culture at work has a direct correlation on every other aspect of your life. And he began our discussion by elaborating in further detail.
Yeah, so I guess, like you say, we sort of Lift Your Wellbeing is my business. I'm the founder, and we sort of have become known and specialised in sort of helping lawyers and accountants. And yeah, it's probably the reason why we've gone down that avenue is because of my own background. I was an accountant myself for 6 years in my early 20s when I left university. So I think I've walked in those shoes and understand, I guess, the challenge of those industries. Like they're tough. The demands of being in professional services is really, really high. And what I noticed is I guess with the demands of the job, that you have to make sacrifices. That's the only way you can almost meet the expectations of these industries, is to make sacrifices. And what I saw happening was that it's health and well-being is one of the first things that people sacrifice. So they, stop moving their body and exercising as much. They end up eating poorly and sleeping less, and then it sort of transitions into your home life, and you start seeing your friends, not as much, and giving up on your hobbies. And so it was sort of my experience of the workplace, in the professional setting, it was that. And I looked around me and saw a lot of my colleagues, my friends were doing the same, and it starts to really impact your mental health when you give up on those core elements of well-being. And I sort of saw the world differently, and my values were very different, and felt that those elements should be the pillars of not only living a good life, but of doing good work. And that businesses should be looking to really promote that and say, hey, let's not sacrifice our health and our well-being and our mental health. Let's actually use this as a catalyst for doing good work. So that was what sort of led me to retrain as a personal trainer. So went from accounting to personal training, which was a big change, but I loved it. And yeah, we did a lot of PT, is what we call it over here in London, and learn my craft, if you like. And I was helping people on a one-on-one basis, but realised that they were going back off into these workplaces for the next 60 hours, a 60-hour work week, and there's not much I could do about that. So I felt that if I was able to, if I was going to have the impact I wanted, I needed to get inside businesses and work directly with the businesses, not just the individuals. So that's where Lift Your Wellbeing started 3 years ago. And yeah, I can continue to elaborate if you want, Kevin, but that's sort of the background story and how we've how we've got to where we are today in a way.
McAlister says that his personal career shift has been exceptionally gratifying, and he wakes up every morning with a smile on his face because he knows he gets to help people realize that they can succeed at work and do it with a smile.
Yeah, like it's very rewarding. It's certainly very rewarding when you can see the impact of your work. But I think because it's a lived experience that I'm going back in and can relate. That probably has an even greater, positive impact for me personally. And seeing what it does for people around you. So it's certainly work that matters. It is a tough industry. It's certainly, we hear more no's than we hear yeses at the moment, but it's getting, it's moving in the right direction. But that's been, I guess, a bonus of the lockdown and COVID, that mental health in the workplace has very much come to the forefront and very much on the radar of lots of leaders. And I think we still have a long way to go. And that's sort of where we are. We continue to evolve, continue to grow and learn. I think it's pretty complex. There's so much involved in wellbeing in the workplace. You can have fit staff, you can have fit and healthy staff, but if the job design's poor, culture's poor, there's not enough support, they're working too many hours, then it all sort of falls in a heap. So yeah, it's been personally very rewarding, but I still feel like it's just day one in a way.
Kevin, I'm curious to ask you about developing a positive workplace culture. What do you think the keys are for any business to take those principles and develop a positive culture at work?
Yeah, it is. I guess it's a question that could be answered really in a complicated way, or maybe I want to try to keep it simple. And a great example, like to use something practical and tangible. I read a study this morning, a new study that's out, that said that if you can reduce the amount of time that your employees are sitting down by 1 hour per day, it will reduce the symptoms of anxiety and depression by between 10 and 15%. I thought that was just a really nice, practical way of thinking about it. I get a lot of leaders that reach out to me, and they're good people. That's the thing, is that we sometimes go, oh, these leaders don't really care about mental health, and most of the time they're good people, but they're just it's not something that's ever come across in terms of their education, and it's all quite new. So I try to give practical advice that people can sort of look to take on board, and I think this is a really good example. Like, how could you, having to think about it, how could you reduce the amount of time that your staff sit down by 1 hour per day? And definitely things like taking a lunch break. For some people that might seem like a silly advice, but definitely with industries we work with, people don't take a lunch break, or they grab their lunch and they sit back down at their desk, and there's just they're sitting back down, there's no movement, there's no opportunity for that brain to take a bit of a rest from the workday. And so that's a great example of one. I think leaders can sort of communicate a bit more about what they do for their own well-being. So if you've gone out for a run this morning, start your team meeting by telling your staff, I've been out for a run this morning, I feel great for it. And that sort of starts to spread the culture of well-being, if you like, by making things like that a little bit more acceptable, and a little bit, so it's not rebellious that, oh, I took time out this morning and went for a run. And I think during meetings, even if the meetings are in person, or if they're on Zoom, or you can get people standing up to say, oh, it's for the first 10 minutes of this meeting, I'm just going to give you an update on the week. We can all stand up for this for the next 10 minutes. So there's a lot of practical things that you can do to get people moving more often, and like Lift Your Wellbeing movement is one of our big things, I guess, is we look at that connection between movement and mental health. As all too often, I think that gets forgotten. So yeah, I think that's good. I think that just showing that you care is a really another important thing. I think that leaders are balancing this act between business performance, like the reaching targets and goals and going for that bonus, and trying to balance that with employee wellbeing and looking after staff. And I think just showing a little bit more empathy and your human side is a great start, and just having a bit more care for people and taking an interest in them outside of work and stuff like that. So I think that's probably two foundational places you could start if this is really new to you. And a lot of the time, just once you have those conversations with people, then things start to show up. And I think it's important that leaders know that most of the time it doesn't cost a lot of money. It probably only costs a lot of money if you don't do anything and you leave it till someone is really unwell. So I think if you can get on the front foot and just do some really simple, proactive things, then you're making a good start.
A survey by the online site Glassdoor revealed that 80% of employees are motivated to work harder when their boss shows them appreciation for the work that they do, compared to 40% who said they were less motivated to work harder if their boss was demanding or they feared losing their job. And McAlister says that employee empowerment can be the catalyst for connectivity at work.
Yeah, that's something that's exactly like we discussed before. Is I think we're all being reminded about that. We're definitely in, I'm based in London despite my funny Australian accent. But we've sort of been back reconnecting with our friends again, and you just realise that even if it's just having a cup of coffee or something, you're like, wow, this feels so good. So I think, especially as businesses are now trying to manage this work, how do we get people back into the office? And I've seen, I see lots of different examples of it. Some taking a really hard line, for or against, and I'm sort of skeptical of that. I think we need to learn some lessons from the past year and a half and have a bit more trust and flexibility. But I think for those days that we are in the office, human connection needs to be the core of those days. So instead of really going back to the old ways of sitting at that desk for all day from 9 to 6, feeling guilty for taking a lunch break or sneaking out to meet someone for coffee or those sort of things. I think that if we are going in the office for 2 or 3 days a week, it's a little bit less emphasis on sitting down, doing the emails, doing the work, and maybe a bit more emphasis on human connection, and bringing people together and facilitating those opportunities. Like I love Gallup. Gallup are the best when it comes to workplace wellbeing, and one of the things that they say is one of the most important things when it comes to wellbeing at work, and this sort of ties into your last question as well, what can businesses do? One of the most important factors is having friends at work. Having friends at work is one of the most important wellbeing factors. And they say that if you've got a friend at work, you'll work harder for them. You'll work harder for your friends. You're less likely to leave the company. You're happier yourself. And those factors make you a better employee as well. So I think that human connection is a really key part of it, and something that we could should be looking to incorporate in our new ways of working.
And I know you tell me that 1 in 3 people don't meet their minimum exercise guidelines at work, and they suffer from depression and anxiety. And I know it's important to you to sort of challenge the norms as we look to eradicate those issues at work. So I'm wondering if you could tell me a bit more.
Yeah, I think they're the sort of shocking statistics, and maybe maybe the listeners are familiar with these already. I sort of pre-pandemic, the number that got thrown around was 1 in 4 people suffering from mental health illness, which is a pretty bad number to start with. And now 1 in 3 seems to be the number that's getting thrown around, which is shocking. And I think some of the other things that are coming out are around, almost 40% of people that have experiencing symptoms on a regular basis that are associated with depression and anxiety. So we know that. I think we're all pretty aware that mental health is in a bad place. And what I'm seeing is that even though we are coming out of lockdown and we're getting that human connection again, is that it's almost like we've been in survival mode this whole time, and now we've finally got this opportunity to stop and sort of have a breather and feel our feelings, and almost the mental health impact of the pandemic is only just starting to show itself, which is a scary part, and what we need to, as individuals and workplaces, governments need to be really, really on top of this. And I guess from my perspective, movement and exercise is our sort of thing, in terms of what we do with Lift Your Wellbeing and supporting our clients to get active every week. And we're seeing that this is in the UK now, that almost 3/4 of the population don't meet the minimum exercise guidelines, which is about 30 minutes a day. So if 3 in 4 people aren't meeting those basic movement guidelines, then that's going to impact their mental health. There's no doubt about it. There really is a connection. So I guess what we're doing, and like through our app, I don't think I've mentioned exactly what we do, but we've got an on-demand wellbeing app. We do live classes, and we do on-demand classes and experiences in exercise, yoga, meditation, Pilates. We just try to make it really easy for people to get active every day, whether it's just for short periods of time, because we know that even 5 to 10 minutes of movement can be enough to put you in a positive state of mind. So we believe that businesses should sort of care a bit more about getting their people active and moving, and in return they'll get on the front foot with looking after their mental health, and it'll filter through to good employees and good business. So that's sort of where we see those shocking statistics. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into it. Mental health can be a variety of reasons, but the modern workplace and the modern work day, the demands of the job, the way our days are structured, they don't necessarily allow us, and so especially in the industries that we specialise in, don't allow us to move our bodies as much as we should. And we're seeing that's filtering through to people's mental health and well-being.
And Kevin, we talked about the mental, the physical aspect of having a positive work culture, but I'm also curious to ask you about improving the mental health in this way of empowering your employees to have a say on what the workplace culture looks like. So tell me your thoughts on giving empowerment to your employees to take ownership of what they want the workplace culture to look like as well.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's really important. I think that's one of the things when you look at workplace wellbeing is the control you give your employees is a really important factor in their sort of wellbeing and their happiness. How much the control you give them over what type of work they do, where they do it, when they do it. So I think that definitely empowering employees and it is a really important factor. And what I like to consider is the design of your day or the design of your week, and how much control have you got over that. Or can you work with your employer or your boss to say, hey, like this would be my perfect week if I was able to incorporate these things into my week and start at this time on this day and in this location. And I think we've got the technology to do it, and like the ability to do it. It's just whether businesses and leaders sort of have the trust in being able to do it. So I think it should be a really open and two-way conversation and that's one thing that hopefully we've learned the past 18 months, that we can work in different ways, and we should look to offer that individuality that's going to support someone's someone's mental health. But yeah, but create a really good, vibrant culture, because especially young people coming through, like, I speak to young people, or I speak to people, leaders that are interviewing young people, and they're demanding these sort of things. Like if you're interviewing someone and you're not offering working from home or flexibility, or not really showing that wellbeing's really on your radar, that young person's, they're not going to apply for that job. I think that we've definitely seen a generational shift, and businesses will have to keep going above and beyond to prove that they've got a good culture, and a real caring one. And young people are really aware of their mental health. They're talking about it with their friends. So I think that it's only a matter of time before businesses sort of have to adapt to that, because that'll be the next generation of leaders. Yeah.
And tell me, I'm also curious to follow up with this. What do you think is the key? What would your message be about maintaining or establishing a positive work-life balance? Because for me, I know for myself, I'm working on not instantly responding to an email when it comes directly into my inbox. So I'm curious to ask you about establishing a positive work-life balance.
It's tough, mate. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. Being a small business owner, I find it very difficult as well, because you've just got so many hats to wear, and you all quite ambitious as well and want to help many people. So I think the word that's popped up a lot this year, and not just with my clients but with other people that I'm sort of connected with, is the word boundaries, and creating our own boundaries. So there's sort of, I think as individuals, we have a responsibility to create boundaries and to take responsibility, probably the right word to use again there, take some responsibility over our well-being. Yes, our culture at work and our boss has a lot to do with it, and will definitely impact it, but I think that they're not solely responsible. We can't completely blame our boss for our well-being, as much as that's nice and convenient. So I think definitely what I've seen, and what I, on a personal level, is morning and evening routines. I think they're really important. Having a really solid morning routine that probably doesn't involve your phone, doesn't involve your emails, the news. I think that's really important. Start your day. It's always really important to start your day positive and to start your day energized. I think if you start in the opposite of that, in a negative and fatigued and sluggish sort of way, that's just going to carry through the whole day, and very hard to break that, even with a whole heap of coffee. So I think that start your day positive and energized, and that will look something different for everyone. For me, walking the dog, bit of meditation, maybe a little bit of journaling, but getting active is a really important one for me. And it doesn't mean crazy gym class or anything like that. It can just, like I say, walking the dog, or going for this morning I went for a little jog, 30-minute jog, and that really got me in a nice frame of mind. I listened to a podcast this morning, something again that's really positive and sort of sets me up well for the week. So I think creating our own boundaries, again in the evening, it can be so easy, especially when we're working from home, to sort of just continue that work day and be checking the emails and, the laptop's right there, I'll just quickly finish it off now. And you sort of find yourself working a lot later, you haven't really switched off properly, and then you struggle to sleep, or you stay up late, or so I think that individually we need to create those boundaries. Taking the lunch break again. I sort of said that earlier, but I think it's a good example of what we need to do, and sort of identifying and being aware. If like you've said, Kevin, like if that emails, that's one thing that I'm sort of still trying to improve on, is how often do you check your emails? How often do you check social media? We know we don't need to check it all the time. Not much is probably ever urgent. So trying to have some structure to it and go, right, I only check my emails and social media at 10, 2, and 4, and that's it. I spend, that would be ideal. I say that, I don't do that, but that's a work in progress. But I think, from an individual perspective, and then obviously bringing that back into the workplace, is sort of, as a leader, you need to to be aware of these things is, have you got certain staff members who are emailing you at 6 in the morning and also at 9 at night? Like, is that appropriate? Like, is that person sleeping well? Is that person managing to switch off? Or, are their workloads too high? Do they need more support? So being aware of what some of your staff members might be doing, and make sure you're not creating a culture where people feel like they can't have that morning routine where they don't check their emails until 9 o'clock or and those sort of things. So there's two parts to the puzzle, but I think as a leader, you've got to think of both. Unfortunately, your own well-being and that of those other around you.
Yeah, Kev, I have a background in inclusive employment for individuals with disabilities, and I know when I work with employers to tell them about the positive benefits of hiring people with disabilities, they always tell me that they improve morale and they improve productivity as well, and they also improve the way people feel about going to work. So I'm wondering your thoughts on the importance of infusing individuals with disabilities into the workforce as well.
Yeah, it's not something I can speak to with it as an expert, but I can see absolutely the benefits of it, the benefits of having a diverse and inclusive culture. I think there's no doubt that it's good, that it does create a good culture, and because as you know, like, diversity comes in all different forms, and I think that disability is just one of those. So absolutely, having businesses that are open to all experiences can only be a good thing for the whole team and the whole culture.
And Kev, I know that you're originally, you have that Australian accent, but you live in London. So I'm curious, when you're not working, what do you like to do for fun there, bud?
Well, I used to love going to the football, or as we call it in Australia, the soccer. I love that sport, and that's something that's over in London here. I've got a team, Crystal Palace. I used to go to the game every fortnight, but for the last 18 months, I haven't been able to do that. But I still play football myself on a Sunday morning. That's my sort of definitely my switch off and my fun. And I've just started playing golf, which I'm absolutely terrible at, but it is one of those things I'm determined to one day be good at it. It's the craziest sport. One day you're hitting it fantastic, and you go back a couple of days later and you're just absolutely shocking. So soccer's the sport I'm comfortable with, and golf's the sport I'm very uncomfortable with. But the combination of the two help me relax.
Well, a little R&R is important for all of us, whether we're good at what we find relaxation in or not, right? So.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So, Kev, I'm also curious to ask you about your Australian roots and what you try to bring from Australia to London. What do you miss most about being at home, and how do you attempt to replicate that?
That's a great question. I think, like, from a work perspective or through my business, I think, like, Australians have a reputation for being pretty fit and healthy people, and sort of living active lifestyles. And I think the weather helps with that. People are a bit more outdoorsy. So I think, like, in a way, our clients sort of look to me as if I'm offering them some slice of the Australian lifestyle by keeping them fit and active. So I think that, incorporate a bit of that. I think Aussies are generally pretty nice, easygoing people, and look to form relationships with everyone. And again, that's something that I try to bring into what we do over here, is that we're very, very inclusive of everyone, and try to build strong relationships, get to know people. I've always said Lift Your Wellbeing is not about making fit people fitter. We're here for the whole workforce, to help people meet them where they are. I think you used that great expression earlier. Meet someone where they are and help them to identify what they can, what positive change they can incorporate into their lives, which is, it's going to have an impact on all different levels, from home to work. And so I think that's sort of a little taste of home. I definitely miss it. I miss Australia. I miss my friends and family and that sunshine. So I'll be back one day, no doubt. But yeah, for now, London treats me pretty well.
Absolutely, and I'm curious to. I'm always curious to ask fitness people what their diet is like, and what they like to binge on when they give themselves the permission to do that, buddy.
Yeah, well, moderation is the word. Moderation is definitely the key. My wife's a dietitian, so some people would think, oh no, you guys must have no fun at all. But quite the opposite. I think we sort of have a healthy relationship with food. I've seen, in the industry, I've seen a lot of fitness professionals who look fantastic but have a really poor relationship with food, and so I think that we're really mindful of that. And it's that balance. I think we know through our own experiences, and like listeners and viewers, I think probably be able to relate to this. When you are eating well, it makes you feel better. There's a real strong link between food and mood. So we're happy to have pizza and on a Friday night and a few beers, and go out for dinner with our friends and all those sort of nice things, because that's really important for your social health as well. But we feel good when we eat well. So I think I keep the Greek yogurt suppliers in business. I love my Greek yogurt with some grapefruit. That's my typical breakfast. And then lunch is usually a salad with some sort of protein, a halloumi or a chicken or something like that, and then a few snacks throughout the day. And dinner's always a mixed bag, but again, just we sort of teach the balanced plate, which is a quarter of the plate's a form of protein, a quarter of the plate is a carbohydrate, and half the plate is vegetables. We sort of aim for that. But after a big day of running classes, on some days I run 3 or 4 classes, the balanced plate goes out the window, and it's many plates. So and I have to tell you, I eat dark chocolate every single night watching a bit of Netflix. So if you feel a bit guilty, at least you're in good company. I love a bit of dark chocolate. So.
Well, for me, I have to tell you, Kevin, it's apple pie.
Apple pie, very good.
I have to learn to eat that in moderation. Apple pie and French toast. So.
Oh, French toast. I haven't had that in a while now, but that is very nice.
So. Those are my 2 guilty pleasures in life. So there you go.
Love it.
So I'm also curious to ask you, Kevin, if you've given any thought to your personal and professional legacy and how you want that to be defined.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't given it much thought. Not a lot. I think, the only thing that comes to mind is probably goes back to that Australian culture. And a big part of being an Aussie is the expression to be a good bloke. I don't know, have you heard of that, Kevin? You heard of that expression?
No, if you want to elaborate on that for me, that'd be great.
Yeah, to be a good bloke, it's a big part of Aussie culture, and it sounds very masculine, but I think it sort of goes across all genders. But it's sort of, I think for me, it just means being a good person. And someone was to describe me as a good bloke, that's the ultimate compliment for me. So I think that would be the way I'd sort of like to be remembered, is just as a good bloke, and that sort of covers all bases. It's a person who is kind to others, that did good work and was liked by plenty of people. And I think, I know you don't want to be successful in whatever it is you do, but you're not a nice person. I don't like that. I think it's more important to be a good bloke and to be seen as a nice guy and doing the right thing by others. And so that's probably where my thoughts are at this stage around legacy.
Yeah, Kevin, I always tell people that there are different definitions of wealth all the time, right? So,
It's one of those things, and same with success. The podcast I listened to this morning, the guy was saying that he had it all at one stage in his life from a materialistic perspective, but was really unhappy, and he sort of decided that success starts from the inside, and that's how you feel on the inside is the most important part, and then go to the external things from there if you want. But I think that sort of ties into well-being and the society we live in, that it's tough with social media and with the ability to compare ourselves to others, and the expectations that we have on ourselves can put a lot of pressure on us. I think mentally as well. Like, even as a small business owner, like, I've had my business for 3 years, but often I find myself comparing myself, against other businesses who are probably a lot older and in a lot different situations. So it's important to run your own race, be kind to yourself, and sort of always check in with your, what success means to you. My business coach encourages me. This is probably a nice little one to take away. Is instead of always writing a to-do list, I've sort of got that personality where it's to-do list all the time. She encourages me to write a success list. So at the end of the day or at the end of the week, just take time, 5-10 minutes to write down what went well. Whether it was just small things, big things, whatever it was. What went well in your week or in your day, and you can sort of find a pretty decent list, and it just puts you in a nice frame of mind. And so instead of focusing on the one thing that didn't go well, you sort of start to build a real nice, positive success mindset. And I think that goes a long way to defining what success means to you.
absolutely. And, I always tell people that everyone's portrait of success is different, and everything worth having happens right on time, right?
Yeah, nice. That's good. I like that. I have to remind myself that one too.
And Jeff, my final question for you is, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, so liftyourwellbeing.com is our website. So you can either jump on the mailing list or get in contact with me pretty quickly through there. Our app, obviously, the beauty of what we do, we're 100% digital. So we've already got clients all around the world. So we're very open to speaking to businesses anywhere and everywhere. And get your employees on our app, get people moving, create a community. So that's one way. Or LinkedIn, I'm pretty busy on LinkedIn. Kevin McAlister. Hopefully you can spell my surname right. I don't think anyone ever has, but maybe it's in the show notes, so you will get it right that time.
Well, yeah, it's my job to make you look good, right?
That's it. I'll be checking to make sure you spelled it right.
Absolutely. Hey, Kevin, I want to really thank you for your time, insights, and perspectives. They're most appreciated, and I want to thank you for joining me this morning.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, thank you for allowing me the opportunity. I think, the more we can have these sort of conversations, it's going to resonate with people individually or on a business level, and I think we'll continue to move things in the right direction and help people. So yeah, good on you for having a great platform. You're doing some really good work, so thank you for the opportunity.